All right, everybody, we're going to get started. Thank you for coming for our webinar. We're going to be talking about building a job application system hosted in SharePoint, which you can use for job applications that you'll show on a public website. So we're going to start with some high-level information, and we'll dive right into the presentation. My name is Will Cooper. I am a SharePoint solutions developer. I've been dedicated to building SharePoint-related solutions for more than 10 years, and I eat and breathe everything that's part of the Microsoft ecosystem, including Power Automate and Power Apps and everything to do with that. In addition to my consulting, I have a YouTube channel called SharePoint Smart. If you are interested, you can subscribe. I have more than 200 videos with all kinds of tips and tricks and interesting things that you can learn to do in SharePoint. And then one other thing I have that I work on is a tool called SharePointDashboards.com. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of our main presentation. So that's another thing I hope you'll take a look at. Infowise is the organization that I work with, and we provide the tool, which is Ultimate Forms. And our philosophy is to make it simple and easy, and also to keep improving. We're always wanting to add new features to our toolkit. These are tools that you can add to SharePoint that allow you to build comprehensive SharePoint solutions. It's done completely inside your SharePoint interface, and this can be done with no coding at all, so you don't have to be a programmer. As I mentioned at the end of this, I'm going to give you some additional information about SharePoint dashboards if you'd like to stick around. I am recording the presentation and it will be posted later today on YouTube. And I do want to let you know that we do want your feedback and questions during the presentation, and the way you can do that is by using the questions interface in our Teams webinar. So be sure to take advantage of that. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So Ultimate Forms is available both for Microsoft 365 and for on-premise SharePoint. So you can take advantage of the tools and things I'm showing you, no matter what you're doing. And then what I wanted to tell you is just kind of the way I think about SharePoint. SharePoint is a wide open platform, and there's a great opportunity to build all kinds of different solutions. But a challenge is that there aren't enough tools to do everything that you want. So you need to add things in order to do that. And that's really where Ultimate Forms comes into the picture. So out of the box, SharePoint can be a bit daunting, and there's a lot of blockers in terms of what you may want to accomplish, and that's where our tools come into play. Now, this particular topic that I'm on today is something that has a deeper meaning for me, because earlier in my developer career, I spent a lot of time dedicated specifically to doing applicant tracking systems. I work for an HR software provider, Silk Road Technology. This is mid-2000s, and I helped companies do more than 200 different applicant tracking systems on public sites. Now, times have changed, and of course we have great opportunity with SharePoint, and so I'm going to talk about how that works. But this is something that's very interesting to me, and it's something I've spent a lot of time with in my professional career. Let's talk about a dedicated software. You might refer to this as a canned software. Of course, out there are dedicated software for applicant tracking systems, but there's some drawbacks. The first, of course, it's going to be really expensive. If you get a dedicated software for this, there's going to be ongoing fees just for this software, which can be cost prohibitive. There's going to be some limitations in terms of how that works. So naturally, those are dedicated software for that purpose, but in terms of the way things work, it's already pre-configured. It's not something that you can fully adapt to your own process. So there may be some lack of flexibility in terms of making it match what your organization does in their hiring process. it's likely to have a lot of things that you don't necessarily need. So streamlining is important. We want to make sure we can set up a system that makes sense, it's easy to use, both for your applicants and also, of course, for your HR staff. And then there, of course, is going to be a learning curve with that. So there's some drawbacks going that route. So we're going to talk about advantages towards what we're looking at today, which is having your own applicant tracking system, hosting that in your SharePoint environment. This is going to be more streamlined. It's going to include only the features and functions that you want, and not extra things that are going to cause confusion or kind of bloated software, which is harder to navigate. You'll be able to start out with something simple and then customize according to your own process. And then you can scale it to whatever it is that you need to do in your organization. This is going to be easy to teach and train for your staff. It's going to be a very fast implementation. I can recall from my time helping implement applicant tracking systems in the past, in many cases it could take 2 or 3 months for customers to implement, and that's not going to be the case with this system at all. You'll see this is something you can do right away. And I do want to mention, after my presentation today, you can download the solution for free if you are already an Ultimate Forms subscriber and try this out. If you're not yet a subscriber, you can download our trial software for 30 days and do the same thing, and that will last for 30 days, so you can try this out. So this will be accessible to you. And so these forms that we're going to show are going to be to your specifications. Obviously, everybody's job application form is going to look a little bit different, and you need a toolkit that allows you to set that up easily. All right, so strategy-wise, having an efficient hiring process for your organization is really important. The success for your organization really is tied to how successfully you're bringing in productive, successful people into your organization, help you grow and accomplish what you want. So this is really important and should be a priority for any organization. The experience for your applicants needs to be easy. It needs to be really easy for them to apply for the job, and then on your side you're going to want to be prepared with an automated system where it's easy for you to respond and work with the candidates to go through the process. All right, so here's a visual of some of the stages and steps when we think about what's happening when somebody's applying for positions in your organizations. So there's going to be workflow tied to this. And when I say workflow, I mean there's needs to be automatic email notifications. There needs to be dashboards to track this information. We need to be able to see what's going on and know who needs to take care of each next step. So this kind of shows that process for you. Candidates apply, you reach out and contact them. Naturally, there's interviews. You collaborate inside your team, make notes, and for candidates that you want, you're going to make an offer. And then once they've accepted an offer, there's pre-employment stages, and then that transitions to onboarding. Now, we do have another onboarding template in our set. I'll tell you how you can download that as well. So not only can you set up an applicant tracking system, you can very easily add an onboarding system additional to that, and those can fit together. Email notifications and history tracking are going to be important. So obviously you want to have some automated email notifications, for one, to let candidates know you successfully received their application, but also to do things like invite them for a phone screen or interviews. You need to make this quick because depending on the size of your organization, you may have a lot of candidates that you're working through, and you need to be able to do this quickly. You don't have to manually do those emails each time. So that's important. And the other thing is history tracking. I need to know not only just the current state, I need to see kind of the history of what's happened, especially in those candidates where maybe there's been some back and forth over the last month. You may have already brought them in for an interview, and we need to kind of see a history trail of, okay, when did they apply? When did we talk to them? That whole thing. So that's an important part that we want to make sure we have. So listed here are things that I see as vital components that you need to have in your applicant tracking system. I'm going to show you how those are incorporated in our tool. So we need to have an easy form for our applicants. We need to have automatic email notifications to notify your staff and applicants when different steps happen along the way. We need to be able to track this progress easily on dashboards. So we're going to have different stages, hiring stages in the process. We need to be able to see that. As I mentioned, history tracking needs to be handled here. Naturally, candidates need to be able to attach their resume and cover letter into the application form, and that will be included. We need to track notes and the interview process in there. I already mentioned dashboards, and then another part of this is we need to have templates for the different positions, so you can post your jobs on your site or take them up and down depending on whether you're still hiring for a position. At the beginning of your process, one thing I'd suggest to you is diagram it out. You can use whatever tool you like. Some people like Visio, some people may even do it in PowerPoint. It doesn't matter, but it is important that you agree on what the process looks like in your organization in terms of hiring stages, in terms of email notifications, and specific things you want to get done. I referenced a free tool here, which is called Draw.io, which is great for drawing diagrams. It's just a personal favorite of mine. I like to use this. So in your planning, when you're doing your applicant tracking system, that's a recommendation that you draw your process. Here's a full process for an example organization of how they work in terms of their stages, in terms of their process, that type of thing. So do take the time to sketch that out before implementing the system that I'm going to show. All right, enough of that boring PowerPoint deck. Let's get to the good stuff. Here we are. All right, I'm in SharePoint Online, and I'm going to demonstrate from a user perspective first, and I'm going to show you what it's like both for your applicants and also for yourself managing this. Now, one thing that's really outstanding about our software is it gives you ability to do public forms, which is a non-existing concept in SharePoint Online normally. Microsoft provides no facility to do public-facing forms. We include that as a part of our tool. So what you're going to see here is I have a job form which I've created in SharePoint. However, I have this ability through Ultimate Forms to expose this onto a public site. Second, my screen's just going a little bit slow. There it goes. Okay, so as you can see, this is a custom form that I have in SharePoint. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how that's built, but what's interesting is I'm going to go out to a public website. So as I mentioned, I run an additional tool called SharePoint Dashboards. For our example, I use that. I have a public website, sharepointdashboards.com, and I created a page in that site to host my form, and there it is. This is just for demonstration. I'm not actually hiring for these positions, but it's to help you see and imagine what this will be like for your organization. I've worked with many different businesses helping them set this up, and I should say that after our call today, if you have questions about this, you can reach out to us and we'll be happy to support you if you want some help getting your applicant tracking system implemented and customized. So the way this works, I've got my active jobs in a drop-down, so your candidate picks from the position. What you'll notice is as I change between the jobs, it loads whatever the corresponding job description is. Below that, the candidate can attach their cover letter and resume, and then this is a application form, just in this web form, which your candidate can fill out. It's fully validated, just like any other electronic form. So you're going to make sure you're able to collect your required information. Then you can also do conditional validation. So let me fill in some of these things to show you some of the dynamic aspects of the form. Whoops, let me fix that. All right, and I'm just putting in some fictional stuff here. Whoop. Now, notice, depending on what I answer here, I can have follow-up questions. So you may have those situations where, depending on an answer, you need to collect additional information. And our form tool allows you to adjust for that really easily. So here's an example of a conditional question where if they say no, that's the normal response. But if they say, hey, yes, that's true, then we need this follow-up information. So that's a nice piece of additional functionality that you can have. We have some more of that going on in this form. Now this is just an example job application form. You're going to customize your form to include specifically the fields you want. So typically that might look like just coming from another electronic form, or even if it's a paper form, all of that can be easily recreated from a SharePoint list and from the form designer tool. Okay, here's an example of more of these where if they say yes, it says, oh, since you said yes to this, there's another question they need to answer. But if it's not, then it doesn't show. So you can't get that full dynamic forms functionality. And below here, now I have the sections for education, so they can give their educational background. And then we get to employment history, so we get into some required information here, asked if we can contact the current employer, all those type of things, and they just fill that in and work their way through the form. So I'm not going to bore you guys making you watch me do all that kind of stuff, because we're going to get to the other fun stuff. Now what's nice, at the bottom of this, we can collect an applicant's signature. So in this case, we want them to agree, that they've represented themselves truthfully and they answered all these questions correctly. Obviously that's important. And then once they do that, we have a special signature field you can use, and they actually, after typing their name, they can sign. So it just gives, some authenticity to this. Forgive my electronic signature. Doesn't look too good, but you can submit and it'll stop me because I didn't fill out all the required fields. But that's good. It shows you that you're going to always make sure you don't have missing and incomplete applications from your candidates. It's going to be fully validated. Another important aspect of the public form is the CAPTCHA. The CAPTCHA is, those, we sometimes think of those things, pick the boxes with the buses. Well, they've improved a lot on that. We don't have to do that luckily anymore. The important aspect for you to know is that it'll stop spam submissions. Nobody wants to get dummy information coming in through their system, and that's what this does. So this is provided from Google, and that will be a part of your application form. You can register for that. There's not a fee for it, and it will help to ensure you don't get a bunch of spam coming through your public website and your job application form. So really nice feature. All right, so let's go back here. On my dashboard, you can see I've got a few candidates here, and the most recent one's going to show on top. And you see a visual indicator for the stage, and this uses a template from SharePoint dashboards. This particular column does. So it's got, we have a progression going on here. Kind of working from start to finish. So when candidates are new, they come in. You see this chevron shape. It's this blue arrow, and it'll move from left to right. So you can see for the hired candidates, filled all the way up. For the new ones, it's like that. So it's just a really easy visual indicator to help me understand how far along in the process are my candidates. Now what you're going to notice, different than that public-facing form, once a candidate applies for a position, there's a whole additional section of the form that's only visible inside your organization. And this is more to the concept of what I described as dynamic forms. You can have these form sections which appear just based on the role in your organization. So when we're thinking about a hiring process, there's things that we need to track about candidates. Disposition is a good example of that. You may need to mark that down, or if the candidate declines, whatever the case may be, you can include your full list of dispositions in here for tracking purposes, and that way you can do sorting, filtering, and searching. Because in your process, you may ultimately have hundreds or thousands of candidates in the system. You may want to contact a candidate at a later time. So we can record who the hiring manager is, and then we have some workflow options. Now what's really handy about this is we are going to have history tracking on this and have automated email notifications. So in our case, these are the hiring stages that I set. So we have, new is the initial stage, and then in this organization, we're always going to follow that up with the phone screen. And in order to do that, I can also send an email. So let me add a note. Ready for phone screen. And I've got this button here. I want you to see what happens. I've got a field called last workflow. It helps everybody to see what was the last thing we did with this candidate, and then this history log is going to be appended also. So this lets us know that we've set the stage to phone, and now I want to automatically send an email to my candidate. And I don't want to go in and out, but I can pull up a template and this and that and the other thing, because I've got hundreds of candidates to get through. I need to move quick. So I've got an email template for that, and all I'm going to have to do is say, send them to the phone screen email and do send email. Notice the log updated again. Notice back out on the dashboard, my stage changed. I'm in the phone screen. So that candidate's automatically going to get an email notification letting them know that they want to schedule, and they can reply to that. All right, so we basically just work through the process with the candidate. Along the way, our hiring manager, human resources, whoever, we can record notes in here. And we can add restrictions into the form or into the list for security where this is private just to your HR staff and to the hiring manager, that type of thing. So they can add their notes in here. And then all of the applicant information which they filled out, submitted, is going to be below in the form for reference for any of your staff at any time. So all that stuff that was originally submitted is still there for you. Let's talk about how the jobs work, because naturally jobs are open, you find a candidate, and you're no longer hiring for the position. So you need to be able to easily turn that on and off. Job postings is really simple. You can just have this jobs list, and it's a very simple form to fill out, and there's a field called active, and depending on whether active is turned on or off, it controls whether that position is available to apply for in the public website. And it's literally just the job position title, and then you have this rich text editor field describing the position. You can edit that, and then, as I mentioned, you can activate or deactivate the job easily by just using that toggle switch. So I've filled my account in one position, and what you'll see is if I go, let me refresh my page, if I go into the public website and look for positions here, whoop, let me do a refresh. Well, it's not cooperating with me. In any case, it will filter quick. I know what it is. There's a setting I didn't apply. I needed to filter. I need to make the lookup due by active. So I'm going to have to let you trust me and take my word for that. I will adjust it on the template. When you use it, the job listing will be down. It's just one small setting I missed. All right. So that's how job listings are posted. So that kind of shows you from a user perspective how things work. Now I want you to kind of understand, well, how is it that you adjust and build the system according to your organization and your specifications? Because that's really what I am excited about in this system, is that it's amazingly flexible and easy to do that. You can do it without having to do code. So with Ultimate Forms, you have the ability to build custom forms in SharePoint, which you otherwise cannot do. And in our toolkit, we have a lot of different options. I can't get into all of that today, but I want to emphasize the things that are key to the system I'm demonstrating. So here is our form designer tool, and I think this is probably my favorite part of all of the tools and functionality that's in Ultimate Forms. This is a drag and drop style interface using a container system, and you simply can drag and move your elements around in the form however you need to. So I can do multi-column sections and drag elements around. I can do things like change the background colors on things very easily by just picking a color swatch, and I can just drag, click OK and save, and what you see is what you get. So it's not hard to understand how to lay this out. The containers can be easily set to single column, or you can do multiple column, as in our case, and it's real time. You see exactly what you're doing, and I'm not having to write code to be able to do that. So you can lay out your form, you can bake in instructions in the form, you can do things like add your organization logo in there, add headers with icons, all kinds of things. So what you're able to do is fairly easily build your own application form matching your organization with all the fielded information you need easily. As far as dynamic content, the way that works is also easy to set up, and this is something you would normally have to do custom programming to achieve, not with these tools. So the way I made this question appear conditionally is by using a permission rule. And all I needed to do is say, if this field is yes, then make this writable. So it makes it where it's always listing for the value in this preceding field. And that's how each of those work. And then additionally, I can control whether it's required. So not only do I want to show that conditionally, I want to make sure that I get a response. So normally with SharePoint, I can just set a field required or not. There's nothing really conditional about it. It's kind of all or nothing. In this case, I can set a rule and say, this is required, but only in the case that this field's yes. So I can just do that through drop-downs. It's an easy to understand concept. I don't have to be a programmer. I can apply that rule. I can test it in my form, and that's really all that there is to it. So the form designer tool is really handy. You saw that there's an attachments field, which is drag and drop. So we included that in the form. It's right here. You can include whatever instructions you want for your candidates very easily. And then, that's it. This field, the form can be laid out. It can look at whatever branding you want to match the branding of your website. And you can include any fielded content that you want to do. All right, so let's jump out of here for a second. Another thing I want to show you is email notifications. Oh, actually, there's one additional thing I want to show you. I forgot to show it. The external form part of it. And this is the part which really breaks you out of the box, because this is completely not available in any form with SharePoint normally. You simply need to click on this external form button, and there's a toggle that says allow access for anonymous. And once you do that, you can say which forms. We just want to take applications intake, so we just check the new box, and then you can use what's called embedded forms. So the way I set this up, there's just a handful of fields. In my case, I wanted to embed it in my SharePoint dashboard site, so I entered my configuration. You'll just put in your own website here, and you'll include your CAPTCHA key. That's provided by Google. As I mentioned, there's not a fee for that. We have information on our website on how to set that up. It's easy to do. You can paste it in here. And then you can also have a custom thank you page, to let your candidate know they've applied. All you have to do is drop this little snippet into a page on your public's website, and it will load the application for you. And there's really not much more to it. So it's very flexible setting that up. As I mentioned, we're going to have email notification roles. Normally you have to do this through workflow. It's time consuming and aggravating, and not something I especially like doing without these tools, but our email alerts roles are very easy to work with. So in our case, I just had set up 4 of them. So naturally when a candidate applies, I just come in here and I say, take their email address, which is in the email field. And then you say when a new item comes in, and I say, here's my standard email. It's got a rich text editor. You can format this however you want. You might include your logo, and you can do whatever standard wording. So your HR managers can manage the content and on those notifications to whatever they like. As far as the dynamic content, where you're inserting things like the candidate's name, it's really simple. You just click on the add column and you just find that in the list. So in my case, I have, first name, last name, etc. You just double click it and you can tell the fields are referenced inside of square brackets. Really easy to understand concept. So you can go and edit those, and then I've set rules which trigger based on the form changes. So for example, the phone screen request. I know that that should go out whenever that send email is set to the value phone screen. So it only will go out in that condition. So when an HR person comes in and selects phone screen, saves out of the form, it will trigger this. and here we go. So, we'd like to schedule a phone interview with you. Dear candidate, we've reviewed your application, etc. You just include your content. Now, I just have 4 there. Likely you'd want to have several of those. But the key thing here is it's easy to set up and it's fully automated. So it's really going to help you guys be efficient with your process. So that's a key part of it. All right, so that's most of what I wanted to show you. I realize a lot of these are new concepts for you. Let me talk to you about your path to pursue this system and look at it and explore and see how it can work for you. The first most important thing is if you don't have our software, on the InfowiseSolutions.com site, there's a big blue button, so I actually want you to click that. That's how you get our software. So you need to do that, click Try Now for free, and then you can click under Installation, Install Now, and there's a pretty easy process for you to get the trial software. Now once you've done that, what you're going to be able to do is download this template. So in our settings screen, once you have the software, you can just go to the Solution Catalog. You'll be able to click on Webinars. You're going to see my webinar from last month on multi-language forms, but I'm going to load exactly what I showed you today. So you can download this exact job application form. That way you can sandbox it, kind of play around with it, see what it does, see how it's set up, that type of thing. So please make sure you take advantage of that. You come and get that template from our site. So that'll allow you to download it, and then on our website we have a lot of resources available to help you out. If you're interested in understanding the pricing, naturally there's a link for that. It's based on the number of users in your organization. That's one cool thing about this system. You could have 1,000 different applicants apply. It doesn't matter. Whether you had 1,000 or 5,000 applicants, it doesn't have any impact on the pricing for these tools. The only thing that matters is how many people in SharePoint interact with the forms, and that's your user count. It's really great. Another thing that you should check out if you're looking at the system, if you look in our webinars, you're going to find a webinar and onboarding in here as well. There's a lot of webinars because we do these every month, and we've been doing them for quite a long time. But if you look on that page, you're going to see there's a new employee onboarding solution system. So you can see a whole presentation about that, and it doesn't cost you anything more to do that. This is all included. If you get the Ultimate Forms tools, you can access any of these templates, and you can have multiple different kinds of solutions inside your SharePoint environment. So a lot of options available to you. I am going to pause for a second because I want to look and see what questions you guys have. So if you have questions and you haven't yet posted it in the question Q&A part, please put it in there. I'll try to answer your questions. Easy for me to say. So does anybody have some general questions about how you would be able to implement this job application system that I'm showing? Or questions about how it works or how you do it in your public website? All right, we've got a quiet crowd. So just click on Q&A in the webinar, and you should be able to type your questions there. I'm still looking for that. All right, no questions at the moment. I'll keep watching. What I'm going to do now is move on to the next part of my presentation, but certainly if you want to ask me more questions about the job application, you can continue to do that through the rest of it. So I did want to mention SharePoint dashboards. This is a companion tool that you can use in addition to Ultimate Forms. And some of what you see here is coming from that. One part is the edit button. You might be wondering about that. That's not a standard SharePoint button that you can do. That comes from a template, SharePoint dashboards. And then these hiring stages, these arrows that came from a template, SharePoint dashboards as well. SharePoint dashboards has templates that allow you to visualize your dashboards and visualize data. So if you go out to this website and you click on Get Started, you're going to come to the gallery page and you're going to see a lot of different things here. And there's a whole wide variety of things you can do, but the general concept is about visualizing data. So this has to do with KPIs, status indicators, but many more things. It can be charting, maps, buttons, like this edit button I just showed you, all kinds of different options. So this is a tool that is specific for SharePoint Online, or if you use SharePoint Server Subscription Edition, it will work for that as well. One thing you can do, like with Infowise, you can sign up for a trial of the software. This allows you to sign up for 21 free templates. You just come in here and click on that free button, or this get 21 free templates, and you just need to provide your name and email address. You get a login, and that'll get you going. And you can start using some of the basic templates, like that edit button. And then once you get going with that, if you want to have access to all these different options, there's a paid subscription available that you can sign up for, which includes support, and you can apply any of these templates in your site. It's really easy to do. These are just copy and paste templates where you can configure your options. So this is the one that I was just using for that. You literally just click the copy button, and then in your SharePoint site, you can just come over here and you'll be able to do this. You copy, format the column, and then you can just paste. Like Ultimate Forms, you do not have to do any custom code. It does all the code for you. That's the beauty of the tool. So I hope you'll check that out. And if you have questions about any of that, please reach out. One thing I also want to mention for Ultimate Forms, if you'd like to have a one-on-one meeting where you can actually talk to us and you're not muted, we'd like to talk to you. So on our homepage, if you scroll down, one of the options is to request a demo. There's a little blue form about halfway down the page. So just provide your contact information, submit your request. We'll set up a one-on-one web meeting with you, and we'll explain any questions you have about our software. If you have questions about SharePoint dashboards, you can just use the contact form out on that website, and we'll respond to your request and answer questions about that tool. So that pretty much covers everything for our presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording. I will let you know